Sam's special shed. Birthday presents. Sam Singleton was very excited, for in only a few days' time it would be his birthday, and he would be 10 years old. "I expect I shall feel quite different when I'm 10, he told his 4-year-old sister Jenny. 10 is so grown up that it has 2 numbers in it. I shall soon even be leaving school." "No, you won't," said his sister, who was just a little bit jealous that she was not going to have a birthday for several months. "You have to stay at school for years and years and years until you learn something, and so you will be an old man before they let you leave. And you are so stupid they won't even let you start school next year. They'll just put you straight into a zoo and let the monkeys poo on you." "Mum, Sam says they're going to put me in a zoo," shouted Jenny, starting to cry. "Oh, don't be silly," said her mum. "Nobody's going to be put in a zoo. Sammy, stop teasing your sister or you won't get any birthday presents. And what do you want for your birthday anyway?" "I want a shed with windows and doors and 2 bedrooms and a television room and an outdoor swimming pool and a—" "Hey, steady on, Sam," smiled his mum. "We don't have that much money. Why on earth do you want a shed?" "Oh, I do want a shed. I can play in it and I can invite my friends to play in it. I can sleep in it. I can—" "You can do your homework in it." Sam's dad had just come in from work and had caught the last part of the conversation. "Oh, hello, dear," said Mum. "I take it you heard what Sam wants for his birthday?" "Yes, and he can do his homework in it. He will be starting that new school soon, and they have homework to do. If I set a little light and a heater in the shed, he will be able to do his homework out there. He'll certainly be able to concentrate better with no television and nobody talking while he gets on with it." And so it was agreed. Sam could have his very own brand new shed to play in and do his homework in. Dad said he would be allowed to sleep in it, but only during the summer, if it was warm enough, and only if he promised to switch the light off and go to sleep no later than if he was sleeping in the house. Next day was Saturday, and so the Singletons got into their car and drove to the special do-it-yourself home shop, where they sold everything from knives and forks to garden furniture. There was a whole outdoor section full of garden things such as plants, tools, garden gnomes, ponds, and sheds. "Oh, Dad, I want that one. No, I want that one. No, I changed my mind. I want that one." "Shh, Sam, don't get so excited," said Dad. "You will have to have whatever we can afford, okay?" "Yes, sorry," said Sam, who wasn't a bad boy really, and was very grateful that his parents were going to buy him any shed, let alone let him sleep in it. "Oh, hello, I'm Mr. Shed, your friendly shed advisor." The man had a face painted to look as if he was made out of wood. Jenny started to cry and hid behind her mum. "Oh dear," said the man, "don't be afraid of me. I'm only Mr. Shed, your friendly shed advisor. We have big sheds, little sheds, tool sheds, potting sheds. Can I shed any light on what you want?" He had obviously said this line many times and looked quite taken aback when Dad said, "Do you have any play sheds?" Oh, we have big sheds, little sheds," he murmured to himself, as if trying to think hard. "Tool sheds, potting sheds, no, sorry, but we do have 2 sheds for the price of 1 offer on today only. Which ones would you like?" Now, Mum and Dad loved a bargain, and so soon picked out 2 lovely sheds, a little one for Dad's tools, and a big friendly-looking shed with 2 big windows and a door, especially for Sam. We'll make it into a play shed by adding curtains to the windows, a little carpet on the floor, a light, and I know, I'll put a little door knocker on the door and a sign that says Sam's Special Shed," promised Dad as they drove home. The sheds were to be delivered the very next day and would be put up next to the big shady oak tree at the bottom of the garden. Do it yourself. The sheds arrived as 2 big wooden crates. The lorry driver and his mate carried the crates up the garden path and put them down near to where Dad had told them the sheds were going to be built. "Right, there you go, mate," said the lorry driver. "Enjoy your sheds and good luck building them." "What?" said Dad. "Don't you put them together for us like they were in the shop?" "No, sorry, mate. These are do-it-yourself kits. You put them together yourself. Don't worry though, the instructions are there in each box." And with that, the 2 men jumped into the cab and the lorry drove off. Never mind, I'll soon manage to put the sheds together," said Dad. This was his first mistake. His second mistake was to open both crates at once and tip all the wood and screws and nails and hinges all out onto the lawn at the bottom of the garden. "Now let's see what it says," murmured Dad, looking at one of the plans. "It says take section A1 and fasten it securely to section A2 using one of the H1 screws." What are the H1 screws, Mum? Were there any in the packet? Soon it became obvious that Dad had mixed up both shed kits and had absolutely no idea what to attach to what, securely or otherwise. "We had better try to separate the kits," said Dad, just beginning to sound a bit cross with himself and with everyone else around him. 3 hours later, everyone was screaming at each other. "Oh, can't you count the screws properly, Jean?" shouted Dad at Mum, who shouted back at him, "I could if you hadn't dropped them, half of them all over the lawn." "Well, look in the grass, look in the grass," shouted Dad, realising that he should have opened the packets over a table or at least over a sheet on the lawn. When will the shed be ready, Dad? Will it be ready for my birthday?" Sam, go indoors and look after your sister," said Dad, "and don't come out here again for at least 2 hours." Several hours later, as it was getting dark, Mum and Dad came in. "Oh, OK, Jean, I'll call O'Grady, but I could have put them together myself if I hadn't mixed the kits up and lost half the screws in the long grass." "Yes, dear, I'm sure you could. Shall we phone Mr. O'Grady now?" Mr. O'Grady was a builder and an odd job man who had done some work for the Singletons before. He had fitted some cupboards, which fell down the next day. He fitted the bathroom and made all the cold taps run with hot water and all the hot taps run with cold. The most exciting thing was when he had fitted the new electric oven, which then exploded, throwing mashed potatoes all over the walls. Sam liked Mr. O'Grady. Things were always exciting when he was around. Mr. O'Grady came round first thing the very next day. Now then, we have a shed to put up, do we?" he chattered in his usual light-hearted way. "No," said Mum, "we have 2 sheds out there on the lawn in bits." "Oh, now then, how did they come to be all mixed up together? Were you trying to turn 2 little sheds into one big shed?" He laughed. "Shh, it was my husband," whispered Mum. "I wouldn't joke about it if I were you. He's not at all happy. It was an accident." "Oh, never mind. I shall sort out the bits for you and have them both put together by 5 o'clock today. Oh, could I just be having a cup of tea before I start, please, Mrs. S?" Mum went in to put the kettle on, and Mr. O'Grady started to pick bits of wood up from the lawn. Every so often he would turn a piece round and round in his hand, shaking his head and with a very puzzled look on his face. However, true to his word, by the end of the afternoon he had built 2 sheds from all the bits and pieces. But they were both the same size, and one of them had a flat roof. "They didn't look like that in the shop," complained Mum. "Oh, maybe they sent the wrong sheds," smiled Mr. O'Grady. "Oh, none of the sheds in the shop had flat roofs at all," said Dad, shaking his head. "Oh, maybe it's a new design," suggested Mr. O'Grady, getting into his van and driving quickly away. Happy birthday, Sam. The next day Sam woke up as usual, had a wash as usual, brushed his teeth and got dressed as usual, but somehow today felt different, and then he remembered today was his birthday. Sam went tearing downstairs to find Mum, Dad and Jenny sitting at the breakfast table. "Happy birthday, Sam," they all cried out as Sam came into the room. "Little presents first, and then we'll go and look at your big present," smiled Dad, passing Sam a small collection of parcels. Sam opened his presents. He got a spaceman's outfit, complete with ray gun. He got a set of toy builder's tools, hammer, screwdriver, plus several battery-driven power tools. He got 6 pairs of socks from Auntie Susan and a big bag of pick and mix sweets from his sister. "Thank you very much," he said politely. "Now come outside, Sam, and see what we've done for you out there," smiled Dad. They all went outside, down to the bottom of the garden, and there was one of the sheds. Well, Sam didn't recognise it at first. Mum had made some pretty curtains for the window. Dad had put a sign on the door saying, "Sam's Special Shed," and underneath that had made another smaller sign that said, "Private, keep out." He had fixed up 2 light bulbs and had even put in an electric socket so that Sam could take his portable television out into the shed. "Look at the roof, Sam," said his mum. Sam looked up and laughed with delight when he saw that Dad had even built a small pretend chimney to which he had fastened Sam's portable television aerial. "Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you," squealed an excited Sam. "This is the best birthday I have ever had." Later that day, Sam had a lovely birthday party, and all his friends came round and played in and around the wonderful shed. They played cowboys and Indians, and hide and seek, and pass the parcel, and musical chairs. Every one of them agreed that it was the best shed they had ever seen. They had a lovely birthday tea of sandwiches, jelly, cakes and ice cream, and then Mum asked Sam to close his eyes tight and not to open them until she said so. When Sam opened his eyes, he saw another special surprise. Mum had baked a very special birthday cake in a very special shape. Can you guess what it was? Yes, of course, it was a little shed made out of cake, with blue icing sugar windows, marzipan curtains, and a little red chimney. All the children had a piece of the yummy birthday shed cake, and there was enough left over for them all to take a piece home. "Can I sleep in the shed tonight, please, Mum? Please, please, please," begged Sam. "Oh, well, yes, I suppose so. But it isn't big enough to put your bed in, Sam. And I don't like the idea of you sleeping on the floor," said Mum worriedly. "I'll use the old camp bed," suggested Sam. "That will just about fit in, if I leave the door open a bit. It's a warm night and it isn't going to rain. Oh, please, Mum, let me, please." So that is what Sam did. Dad got the old camp bed down from the loft, and Mum washed the old sleeping bag. They took it down to the shed, and Sam got into bed. He did look rather strange though. You see, the bed was quite long and really didn't fit inside the little shed. Sam's head was poking out of one end and his feet stuck out of the other. but he was blissfully happy and soon went to sleep. Good night, Birthday Sam. The next morning was the first day of half-term, and what do you think Sam did all day? He played in his shed. First he pretended that he was an explorer and the shed was a log cabin in the middle of the jungle. He looked out of the window and pretended that his sister, who was playing quietly on the lawn with her dolls, was a rare monkey that had to be captured. "Gotcha!" he cried as he pounced on his sister, knocking her and her dolls over. "Mom! Sam's pushed me over and I was being really good," shouted Jenny, pretending to cry, as she was not really hurt at all. "Sam, behave yourself," shouted Mum from the kitchen. Sam quickly went back into his shed and a few minutes later emerged wearing his spaceman's outfit. He slowly bounced across the lawn, waving his ray gun in the air. "I'm in zero gravity," he explained as he bounced slowly towards his sister. "And you are a space creature from Mars, which I must shoot with my ray gun. Don't worry, I won't kill you. I shall just stun you so that I can take you back to my spaceship to study you and keep you as a moon pet." And with that, Sam pointed his ray gun at Jenny and made a noise like zzz, 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 and dragged her off towards the shed, which was now a giant spaceship. "Mom, Sam's trying to study me." Behave or else. During the first day of the holidays, Mrs. Singleton went out to her son several times. First she had to rescue the Mars creature, who by now had been locked in the shed awaiting study by the space explorer. Then she rescued Jenny the robot, who Sam, still dressed as a spaceman, had pushed onto the camp bed and was about to repair using a hammer and a saw from his toy builder's set. Later that day, Jenny came dashing in and asked her mum for 20p. "Yes, of course you can have 20p, darling, but whatever do you need it for?" asked her mum. "Sam says his shed is a toll booth and I have to pay 20 pence entrance into the garden, and I have to go into the garden again because he's kidnapped my dolls," cried Jenny. "Right, that's it," snapped Mrs. Singleton. "He's really gone too far this time," and she went crossly out into the garden. "Would you like a ticket for the garden, Mum?" asked Sam innocently. "Only 20 pence to look round the lawn." "Stop all this nonsense," snapped his mum, "and hand over your sister's dolls, now." Sam released the dolls from their captivity and turned to go back into his shed. "Oh, no, you don't, young man. You're coming in until you learn to behave yourself," declared his mum. Sam was brought in, protesting his innocence, and was sent straight to his room. "I was only playing with my sister. You always tell me I should play with my sister. I play nicely with my sister, and look what happens. It's not fair. It's just not fair. Can I sleep in my shed tonight?" "No, you certainly may not. You can sleep in your shed again when you have learnt to be good." Sam was secretly grateful that when he came home from work, Mum didn't tell Dad how naughty he had been, or he would really have got told off. In his bedroom, Sam read the first part of a book about a man called Robinson, who gets stranded on a desert island and has a friend called Friday, because that was the day they first met. "I know," thought Sam, "the shed can be my shelter on a desert island in the garden, and Jenny can be Jenny Friday, and I can make her catch fish and cook and clean the shed. I'm sure she'll enjoy that, and I won't get in trouble because I'll be letting Jenny share the story, and Mum said you should always share." And with that kind thought, he dropped off to sleep. Later that night, came the storm. Not just a little storm, but a big, banging, clattering, thundering, rainy, floody, crashy, bangy lightning storm. Sam was very frightened. He had once seen a film on television where some children were afraid of thunder and so went into their nanny and sung a song about the things they liked. It seemed like a good idea, and so he went into Mum and Dad's room and started singing at the top of his voice. I love my shed, I love my shed, I love its windows and all of my shed. What the? Murmured Dad. Sam, what are you doing out of bed? I can't sleep, Dad. The storm is keeping me awake. Just then Jenny woke up and started to cry because she too was afraid of the thunder. Oh, there's nothing to be frightened of, said Dad in a calming way. It's only a storm. It can't hurt you. At the very moment he said that, there was a big flash and a giant clap of thunder. Jenny screamed, and Mum looked out of the window. Oh no, John, she said to Dad. Look at the sheds. The last bolt of lightning had struck the wooden sheds, which were now well and truly on fire. I'll call the fire brigade, said Dad, and went quickly and calmly downstairs to phone them. The firemen came immediately and soon had the fires under control. Dad's flat-roofed shed, the tool shed, was completely destroyed, all but for a few planks of wood. The firemen managed to save half of Sam's shed, but it was very badly damaged by the fire. Sam began to cry, and everyone felt very, very sorry for them. Just then they heard a familiar voice. Now then, what's all this crying for? What's been going on? It was Mr. O'Grady, the odd job man. I was just passing in my van and I saw the fire engine outside, so I stopped just to be nosy. What's happened? They explained about the lightning striking the sheds and how Sam was particularly sad because one of them had been his special birthday shed. Oh, never mind, I'll see what I can do, said kind Mr. O'Grady. New sheds from old. The next day Mr. O'Grady arrived early in his van and began knocking down what was left of the burnt-out sheds. Oh, this is good wood. Yes, I can do this. I've done this, they heard him murmuring to himself. What are you doing, Mr. O'Grady? Can you mend my shed? Can we do anything to help? Asked Sam and Jenny. Just then Mum came down the garden path. Look, why don't you two go round to Auntie Susan's house for an hour or two and give Mr. O'Grady a chance to concentrate on what he wants to do? So the two children jumped into the car and Dad took them round to Auntie Susan's. They liked Auntie Susan because she always gave them special spongy cake with fruit juice and biscuits. Time went by very quickly as they played with dear Auntie Susan, and when Dad came to collect them, they discovered that they had spent the whole day with Auntie Susan without realising it. We've been here for hours and hours, said Sam. What has been happening with Mr. O'Grady and the sheds? I think you'll be very surprised, smiled Dad as he drove the children home. As soon as they arrived home, Sam jumped out of the car and went running down the garden path to where the sheds had been. And guess what was there? Nothing. Where his beloved special shed had been, there was just nothing. Slightly burnt grass. He started to cry. Now then, you're not crying again, young man, are you? It was Mr. O'Grady. Look up there. Sam looked up, and to his amazement there, in the old oak tree, was a little house, all painted with windows, a brightly coloured door, and with a little ladder leading up to it. Ah, it's all yours, Sam, said kind Mr. O'Grady in a proud voice. I made it out of bits of the other sheds and one or two pieces I had in my workshop. Oh, thank you so much, Mr. O'Grady, said Sam, hardly able to believe his eyes. Well, "Aren't you going to be the first to go up the ladder, Sam?" said his dad. As Sam climbed the ladder to his new tree house, his mind was full of plans. He could pretend to be Tarzan, and Jenny could be a monkey who lives with him in the tree house, and he could push her out of the tree and make her fetch grapes and drinks for him. He could make her climb ropes and drop her. "Oh, thank you, everyone. I love you," he smiled down at them all. "Ah, isn't he just so sweet?" murmured his mother.